Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, let's go over the market. Let's talk about what happened, what we can, I guess, dissect from today's move, especially going into tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, being Tesla's earnings. Pretty massive day, actually. And yeah, essentially just moving forward, we have Microsoft reporting earnings at the end of the day as well, which is a pretty big one, right? It's a big dog for sure. And yeah, so let's just talk about it. Let's dissect it. Let's figure out what's happening and what we can, figure out moving forward. So all that being said, of course, as usual, none of this is financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research. I am not a financial advisor, all that good stuff. And on top of that, if you enjoyed the video, find it useful, helpful, informative, whatever, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help quite a bit. But let's just jump right into it. Tesla, well, the market's not closed yet. Closes in about 2.5 minutes. Tesla looking to be closing about flat. We'll just say flat, which will put us around $143 and a half roughly per share. So what does this mean, ladies and gentlemen? So I talked about yesterday how personally, 150 I personally believe is absolutely not out of the question, and how I believe 150 is very much in play. However, I also believe that 150-ish is going to be most likely the at least short to medium term top. Let's just say that. Mainly because we did break out of this overall arguable, medium-term downward trend that we were in, the blue and the yellow line, which is a great sign. But, as with any trend, as with anything in stocks in general, there's always going to be reversals. There's always going to be ups and downs, right? That's just kind of how it works. And I believe that personally, after this massive uptrend that we've had since the lows, which assuming we go to, let's say, 150, if we actually come up to exactly 150, that'll be almost a 50% move from the lows of about 101. So that is a massive move, and that's only in about roughly 2 weeks or something like that, 2.5 weeks, something like that, which is insane, right? That's a pretty sizable move. I still remember back when we were down here, I was talking about NVIDIA, and I'm like, remember NVIDIA, they went from all the way here to all the way here. This was like, what, 80% move or something like that? 73% move, right? So Tesla, and I said that, Tesla can have something like this as well. I remember specifically saying that people have been following and watching, I'm sure remember that as well. And, we got a move, similar to that. It just happened substantially faster, as Tesla usually does things, right? It's usually much faster of a stock, whether it's up or down. So nonetheless, though, I do believe 150 still very much in play tomorrow, arguably, definitely a possibility. Though again, I really don't think that has, I guess, that much more room to the upside, especially above this like 153 area, which is the 50-day moving average. So I personally believe, again, just my opinion, of course, could be wrong, but I personally believe that the upside for bulls here is very limited, and it's a much more favorable area to, I guess, hedge, or and just more favorable for the bulls coming up, in my opinion, than it is for the bears, rather than it is for the bulls. Just my opinion, mainly because the bulls just had this fantastic run already, and I do believe that a drawdown is necessary. Again, pretty much just playing out this upward, this rising wedge that we are in, which I still strongly believe will play out to the downside, which will ultimately, like I said yesterday, have us move something like this, most likely retest this, and then something like that. Is just a rough idea of what I personally think as of right now. Now, I want to make it very clear. I saw some comments yesterday saying I'm constantly changing directions and things like that. I'm always wrong and things like that. Well, first of all, it's important to be flexible in a market like this, especially a market like this, a very, very volatile market, especially with Tesla, right? You have to always be ready to move and switch, and based on how the chart performs. For instance, back when we were all the way here, I've been calling the 140s pretty much since we were in the very low 100s, right? I've been saying that I personally believe 140 is most likely going to be the area we go to, and here we are. So first of all, not wrong about that. And second of all, I did say that I personally I think there's a higher chance Tesla doesn't break out of much above 140, and especially out of this downward trend, which is of course this yellow line. I didn't think it was going to do it, but it did, obviously. So you have to obviously, adapt to that and start changing your overall, theses, if you will, right? That's just kind of how it goes. And if you think that you can predict something and it'll just go exactly that path for the foreseeable future, like 1 year out, then you're just delusional, and this market will completely eat you alive. That's just how it works, plain and simple. But yeah, that's kind of why, right? Sometimes you do have to change things based on how the stock performs, especially if it does something that you personally didn't expect it to do. Like, for instance, for me, breaking out of this yellow downtrend, which I didn't think it would have the strength to do that. We did, though, and that's a great sign for the bulls. But again, it doesn't mean it's all over just yet either. So, like I said, we've been calling for this 140 level pretty much back when Tesla was around like 110 or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I remember it was somewhere around these lows over here. We've been in here for now a couple of days, and we've been getting some rejection finally starting to come into action. You can see some little wicks finally showing up, showing some decent rejection in the mid to high 140s and closer to the 150s. So again, I still personally believe 150 is possible, but I do believe it is going to be just simply a bull trap. I'm pretty confident, actually. I would even say I'm like 80% confident it will be a bull trap somewhere around the 150s if we do get there. And both bulls are just getting too ecstatic. And I know sometimes I upset the bulls, sometimes I upset the bears. I really couldn't care less about your feelings, right? I'm just here to give you what I see and what I think will happen, trying to remove any biasness aside. I am an overall Tesla bull. I love the company. The stock is a different matter. You have to separate the two. Only the two only coincide together in a longer time frame. Short term, whether it's a week, a day, a month, even half a year, the two are not so much correlated, or as much correlation as you would think. So just keep that in mind. That is very important to remember. But yeah, all that being said and done, so let's move into it. The market finally closed. Tesla 143.91, which is up about 0.11%, which is essentially flat. Microsoft reported earnings seeming to be slightly positive. Nothing too crazy though, which is great to see. So we'll see how that affects Tesla. Could be the little small catalyst Tesla needs to get to 150 tomorrow before, in my opinion, the bull trap. But again, with earnings, you never know. It can always change things quite a bit. But like I said yesterday, the Fibonacci, right? Again, the swing high to the swing low suggests that 150, the 0.5, a very, very powerful, in this case, resistance with the 50-day moving average, with also just 150 being kind of a psychological level, right? It's just a kind of nice even round number. On top of that, you can also see that way back here, we've had a lot of volume and a lot of resistance back in the 150 here as well. So, I mean, again, it's possible that we just break right through it and it just, just slice right through it. It's very possible, especially with something like, like as a catalyst like earnings. But again, I personally don't believe the upside is favorable for the bulls from this specific area as much anymore, which is why I am personally starting to sell calls against my shares as a hedge. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm personally foreseeing as of right now. You can also see the Bollinger Band. We are, of course, still well above the green line, which is something I haven't said in a long time, because usually we've been well below the red line, but finally we're actually above the green line, which is great to see. And you can see it is kind of curling here, right? It is expanding a little bit after this move, just, for the past couple of days, but it is overall still, a fairly tight looking Bollinger Band. And I think the earnings will really, truly make this one explode to one direction or another. So we'll see what happens with that. Another possibility is that earnings, like I said, does make us drop back down to somewhere around the very low hundreds, which in turn will just keep us ping-ponging within the Bollinger Band, which will further cause it to tighten up. And then, maybe it'll do that for about a month. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, until maybe some actual explosion somewhere around March or something like that, maybe even April. That too wouldn't be too surprising as well. But you can see the volume today, a little bit on the lower end, nothing too crazy. But one thing that I do want to pay attention to is, of course, also looking at TSLQ. So let's remove the Bollinger Band. And you can see TSLQ is actually kind of looking like it wants to bounce here, which of course is the opposite for Tesla, meaning to fall. And the main reason is because it is finding some support around this general level that I put way back then, around 64. On top of that, the candle is looking a little bit of like a doji candle. It's not the most convincing doji candle in the world, but it's not too bad at all. And of course, if you're not aware, a doji candle is one of these bad boys right here, which in general signifies, where is it? Here. Although rare, a doji candle generally signals a trend reversal indication for analysts, although it can also signal indecision about future prices, which I think both can apply here, because there is definitely some indecision, especially with earnings looming around the corner. But dojis also tend to also signal reversals, right? Which is kind of what we also saw, a mini reversal over here. As you can see, as we kind of came up all the way to almost 140, completely collapsed, and then fell even lower. And then on this day right here, you can see the candle close pretty much showing us a beautiful long-legged doji, right? And then naturally off of that, we have this beautiful rally even higher. How much of a percent was this? Let's say this was about a percent of, from peak to trough, let's say a 15% rally, which is quite significant in just a few days, right? So that's just an example of this doji. Now this is an actual good looking doji. This one is a little bit more suspicious, mainly because you can see the candle itself is a little thicker, right? The less of the candle itself that you see, aka the open and the close, the closer it is, ideally like almost zero difference, the better it is, right? Similar to what we see over here, right? Beautiful looking little doji candle here as well, which had a little bit of a bear trap and then massive rally from there, just a huge rip. Top of that, on the weekly, we also had a hammer candle back here as well, which was also a bullish indicator of this rip that followed through. And yeah, so I'm kind of starting to slowly see the opposite here happen, in an area that, is not surprising that we are finally seeing some resistance. Now, again, I don't believe this is a very convincing doji candle. And again, I also still personally believe that it is very possible to see 150, though it's not, though I do believe if we do get there, which, again, still very possible, it's not going to be too crazy. On top of that, you can see in the 1 hour, we are very slowly starting to develop a slight bearish divergence. Nothing too crazy just yet. And I wouldn't be surprised, again, if this little potential, I don't know, I guess you can even argue this is like a small little bow flag, or maybe even ascending a triangle like this or something like this, right? You can easily make an argument for one of these here. Definitely wouldn't be surprised if this kind of plays out to the upside, and that's what brings us to 150. It really wouldn't shock me whatsoever. But I really just, again, I don't see us going much higher than that. If we do, fantastic. Don't get me wrong. That's amazing. But again, I'm just trying to be as realistic as I can. All bias aside, I love Tesla. I love Elon. But again, the chart is the chart. TSLA and TESLA are very different beasts, especially in the short term. So that's essentially what I'm seeing, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you all so much for watching. We are, of course, still above the 5 and the 10-day moving average. I'm going to remove this bad boy here for a second. We are, of course, above the 5 and 10, which is great. But again, these ascending wedges usually play out to the downside than it is to the upside. So again, I think earnings will be a phenomenal catalyst to really determine where we're going to go with this. The daily on the RSI still looks okay. There's nothing like completely bearish happening just yet on Tesla. So that's why I'm not super convinced that the downtrend has to happen right now, tomorrow, for instance, right? Nothing super obvious like that just yet, but it is slowly, seemingly starting to develop those kind of signs, just very slowly. Which is why I still think 150-ish to 153, which is the 50-day moving average, is still in play. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing, guys. Let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. I think we're in for a wild rest of this week for Tesla. It'll be definitely interesting to see what happens. But thanks for watching. See you for the next one. Peace.